This is based on a course that I taught last semester called Oral English for Academic Presentations. I taught this course to education majors, students from the Faculty of Education who are majoring in teaching English. I think I will move on to the first slide since I already introduced myself twice, so I should move on to slide number 2. Before I do that, I would like to thank everyone at Mahasarakham University for giving me this wonderful opportunity to present in front of all of you today. Now, moving on to presentation skills. Well, we've all been doing that, haven't we, since yesterday. I mean, so many of us have been presenting. We know the value of presentation skills, how important it is to communicate with our audience. So essentially, presentation skills are communication skills because they give a chance for us to let others see our point of view. And it also gives our students a chance to increase their communicative competence because they get a platform based on which they can try and improve their communication as well as work on their confidence. So we know it's all about communication. It's a two-way communication, essentially. So it's communication skills and it is also life skills. Now, we all know that students give presentations when they study at university, but even beyond higher education, students would be needing presentation skills as life skills, even in the workplace, when they go on to a professional environment, when they have to maybe give business presentations. It's a form of public speaking, which we have to really train our students to do well. So essentially, presentation skills are communication skills and lifelong skills that we need to teach our students. Now, moving on to actually teaching the presentation skills, I will tell you a bit about what I actually did in my class, English for Academic Presentations. Now what I did was use task-based activities. Now task-based activities really give a chance for students to work on their communicative competence, which is what we are all working towards. So to begin with, what I did was, number one, to build up knowledge, which I will be explaining to you in detail a little later, and then model presentations. So essentially, what I did was, I presented in front of students to make them understand how it is that we should present effectively, because they need to see examples of presentations as well. And what better than for the teacher to present in front of her own students? You're not only teaching the students content, but you're actually sort of being a role model for them. So that's what I did. I presented in front of students. And then I gave them a chance to develop their own presentations. And lastly, it was time for them to give their individual presentations. Now, moving to the first point, building up knowledge or building up their schemata. What I did was, for my class, I put students into pairs because I know they work well when they have ideas to share with each other. So we brainstormed, students' different, say, research interests, things that they would like to do for their future research because they hadn't yet started, doing research or taking an official class on research. So we brainstormed a list of, ideas that students might be interested in presenting, because when students present, they would like to present something that they really like. And then I did elicit answers from them, so I asked them why they're interested in those particular topics. And following that, I asked them to go out and bring other people's research papers so that they could get an idea of actually what kind of research others were doing. And following this, we sort of negotiated a bit about what research would be suitable for, say, each student based on their interests. And lastly, we had to finalize a topic of research for each student. Now, please don't get confused about the word research, because this was not a research class. It was an academic presentations class. So essentially, I was giving the chance for students to read other people's research and just to get an idea about what research is and to present others' research. Now, following building up knowledge or building up their schemata, I went on to model presentations, as I told you earlier. So this would inform students on different ways and give them tips on how to give an effective presentation. Not only did I present, I showed them examples of good and bad presentations as well. Before showing the examples to them, I did not tell them whether it is a good presentation or it is a bad one. It was up to them to try and figure out which were good and which were bad presentations. And then I did actually demonstrate to them by presenting in front of the class. Because I think it is sometimes it's not fair to just ask students to present. I mean, as teachers, we should also be able to present in front of our students. And then I did elicit their feedback from them. So after presenting, it's not that I just presented and said end of presentation. I needed to get their feedback on what they thought of my presentation, so that they would know that when they present, they should also be ready to give other people's feedbacks. After modeling, different presentations, I gave them a chance to actually develop work on their own presentation. Now, essentially, this was a sort of a joint construction method in which the students worked in pairs, so they would help each other out in maybe doing the slides and looking at each other's presentation speech, giving each other feedback and ideas on how to make it better. So it was a joint construction activity, and following this, of course, there was peer review, because sometimes students learn well from each other instead of the teacher telling them all the time what is right and what is not. I'm essentially doing this also to make students take control of their learning, because that's what we're here to do. We're trying to make them autonomous learners. We are not here to necessarily always tell them what is right and what is wrong. It is for them to try and figure that out, and for us to actually help them do it. So I thought, why not do a peer review so that students can help each other out instead of me always telling them what is right and what is wrong. So following peer review, as I told you, I acted as a guide, as a facilitator, which is usually what I do in classes. Now, when doing this, when students were actually presenting, I did not and I do not focus on accuracy all the time. In the sense, if they make mistakes when they're presenting, I do not necessarily correct all their errors, because when I have done that in the past, it sometimes makes students intimidated to carry on presenting, and they might stop saying what they want to say. So my focus was more on fluency, but keeping it in mind that individually I would correct accuracy issues as well later on, one-to-one. Now, when it was time for students to give their own presentations, they did present, give individual presentations. Following that, I actually let each and every other student to give feedback, so that the student who was presenting would collect all this feedback, would work on that feedback, not only from the other students, but from me as well, and revise accordingly, and give them a chance to give those revised presentations. So it was a cycle. It was not that I asked them to present only once. I did several presentations in class, like mock presentations, before their actual final presentation. Now, as you might have read my abstract, it talked about the challenges that I would address to you, that I faced when teaching presentation skills to my students. Now, the first challenge was, of course, from the students' point of view. They said that they didn't have enough time because I think in the Asian context, the students are given a lot of homework to do. We all, I think, know that they get lots and lots of work from all the subjects that they study, and they told me this. So I did consider that. They were very honest with me. So it was a challenge because they told me that they would not have time to necessarily do all the mock presentations. This was definitely a challenge that I faced. They had a lot of assignments and extracurricular activities to do, so it was not enough time to actually carry out a lot of presentations in class. Another challenge that I faced was because students were familiar with, maybe not all, but few teacher-centered classrooms. So I would see that every time, if they thought they made a mistake or they wanted some answers, they would look up to me. But I try to make them understand that they can ask their friends as well. They can learn from each other. Because I think what happens in some situations, in the Asian context, is we have teacher-centered classrooms, and students think that teachers know all the answers, but that might not necessarily be true because their peers might be knowing their answers as well. So we should sort of let students, be at the center and not us. So this is one of the challenges that I faced. Another challenge was rote learning. Now, what the students did was, not all, but some of the students actually presented by reading of the script, which was, I would say, not very interesting, because what happens is everyone was just focusing on the slides. No one was looking at the students.